Hi, this is Shira Adler, and welcome back to another episode of our Eco Edutainment series here on The Synergy Show. If you haven't seen these episodes before, these are really specific topics because they really specifically matter. They're all about wellness, and I don't just mean wellness inside and on the body. We're talking more specifically about wellness extending into our built environments. And to that end, I am really honored that I have had beautiful speakers, beautiful friends, and colleagues joining me to discuss just what that means to them in terms of their own industry and their participation in what I like to call agritech. That's using regenerative materials, sustainability as a focus to make our environments healthier, safer, stronger, better for your lived wellness experience. And I have a beautiful guest that I had the honor of meeting recently. He is a builder. And yes, Preferred Building is his company, and he sounds like any other builder. He's a GC. You could find lots of wonderful builders in your area, whatever city, state, part of the country, or part of the world you're in. But there are some builders that do things a little differently. And I met this gentleman recently when I was taking another client over to a beautiful custom build home in North Carolina. We'll just refer to it as Paige's house. Why? Because that's the name of the woman who took it upon herself to do this unique custom build, because her living environment matters. It affects her health, as it really does for each of us, but she already understood that. So she specifically looked for the materials, the builders, the contractor, the architects. Everything about this house is special and unique and healthy. And it is my goal and my mission to bring to you information about the people, the products, the systems, the thinking, the strategy, and the availability of incorporating all of these elements into whatever it is that you are looking to build. Whether it's a tiny home and retrofitting a commercial product, whether you're changing or updating something like an office, or you're doing a new build, a home, an intentional community, truly the applications for what these materials and the people who are passionate about them, they're endless. And so that's the conversation we're going to have right now with a new friend, Mike Tyrell, who is in the Chapel Hill area of North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I loved what you did. I love your work. I saw it firsthand. I got to touch the walls. I got to, and we'll have pictures and a new media project coming out that will really, really highlight what we're calling Paige's house. But why don't you tell me a little bit about your background and how you were even introduced to this project?
Yeah, so I've been a builder for going on, I would say probably 20 years now. Kind of grew up in the Chapel Hill, Raleigh, the Triangle, Triad, whatever you want to call it. And basically started from the ground and just kind of worked my way up. I had a mother that was in real estate. And so I constantly found myself doing like inspection report lists and just things, the odds and ends that needed to get fixed. Got my general contractor's license when I was about 22 or 23, and then sort of just worked my way up in terms of project size, kind of just knowing the ropes of like what building materials and what applications to use where. I mean, there's a lot to know. There's not much standardization of building in general. It's just sort of kind of like an apprenticeship program, if you will, to where a lot of builders just kind of happen to know what they know. And if you know that builder knows enough and you want to hire that person, then that's going to go how it's going to go. So just sort of worked my way through the ranks to the point where I started doing custom houses and custom builds when the time was appropriate in my career to start doing that. Linked up with a business partner who's not here today, unfortunately, but his name is Matthew Campbell. He's another great builder, works with alternative building materials, alternative building methods. And he's just sort of a jack of all trades like myself in terms of what we came up doing in the trades, specifically like carpentry, roofing, siding, tile work. I mean, you gotta know a thing or
All the
two.
components, all the different things
Yeah,
you learn by, well,
it's
that's
a
really
it's
the
a good
best way
way
to
to
learn.
start getting into building is to just start doing those trades together. Really good, just kind of hands-on experience with knowing what it's like, so you know what to expect from anybody that you may hire one day. So I will point out that in 2009, during the what we all when we were all coming about at that time know is the stimulus package. When, the housing crisis kind of crashed, there was a lot of incentives for sort of emerging, I'll just say, techniques and understandings of building science and energy efficiency. So I've got a little bit of background. I used to be the part owner of a company called Energy Tribe in here in Chapel Hill that has since, I think, evolved onto something else since I've departed. But we focused on energy efficiency retrofits, learning about green building materials, what were referred to
Oh.
just widely as green building materials at that time. A little bit of a commercial term for it, I suppose. But yeah, and just sort of kind of understanding the more nuanced side of building, that it's not just necessarily framing up walls and then putting drywall on and then a person takes a key and moves in and that's it. It's definitely more subtle. There's you could say, quote unquote, there's layers to this. It's just there. You can of course just build a house and somebody can be happy with the fact that a roof kind of stops rain from hitting their heads, and that may be the um, sort of the threshold for acceptance. And then other people that may consider water quality, air quality, efficiency really big. There's another set of skills that you need to know in order to implement that into the building process, and part of it is involving things like hempcrete and hempwood, and just kind of the sort of hemp material in general, and understanding the benefits of that. So it's all very, very tied together. Yeah, it's all definitely tied together.
I love that and that was a great segue for me. Thank you very
Yeah,
much. Talked
yeah.
specifically about hempwood and hempcrete because that's how I found you.
Yep.
The hemp home, we should say, that Paige
Hmm.
built, because this is a specific project. And of all of the builds you've done, how many have you done in the North Carolina region, whether it's the Piedmont Triad region or the Research Triangle or any area that you are aware of? Because you have a network of colleagues as well. How
Yeah.
many homes like that exist currently in North Carolina, to your knowledge, that we're using specifically these hemp regenerative materials?
Not many currently, that I know of. This is actually one of the first. I think Matthew has done a project involving alternative building materials, but this is my first hempcrete house that I've done, and so it's although a thing that I know is regularly used around the world, specifically probably in Europe. I don't think that it really has had the traction here quite yet, in terms of just the integration of these materials, just because you've got market forces fighting against you. You've got you got DuPont, and you've got just these massive conglomerates that it's in their best interest to kind of keep that stuff out for the time being so they can just kind of keep doing what they're doing. But that's kind of a story as old as time, in my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah.
not just to answer the question directly, not too many that I know of.
I think that was very subtle and also very brave of you to specifically, because let's be real, you don't know what you don't know.
Sure.
And that's really what this conversation comes down
Mhm.
to. Until someone introduces the
Yeah.
concepts of what regenerative materials are, what the difference is between regenerative and sustainability, and how those are actually, let's say, two different
Yeah.
sides of the same coin in a way, but they do mean something different. And remember that old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, something actually is broken, and
Yeah.
it's been the cumulative effect on our health and wellness. Although in a built environment, it's just not talked about to the extent where there's not enough impetus for these bigger companies to want to embrace these materials and make the change.
Yeah.
But you stepped out, you were found, and someone said, "Oh, by the way, Paige said we're going to use hempcrete," and you said, "What's that?" So,
Yeah.
what was your initial perspective when you first learned about it and then actually worked with it?
Yeah, so I think, and if just to kind of clarify, I think my exact words were when she said, "I think we're going to do hempcrete." I said, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, I've heard of that. That's pretty cool." And then I think we just kind of it became to me. Well, I'll say for Paige, I think that was basically the basis of the house. Like the house, I think the way she saw it was, I'm going to have a hempcrete house, and so for her, that was a very, very defining factor. As a builder, I'm asked to do. I'm asked to look at every component of the house, and every component has a specific way you can do it. So she explained the health values, and I of course understood, just because I'm familiar with like hay bale construction, that
Yes.
like a more built out natural material. I'm struggling to kind of define it correctly, but a natural building block like that or material is obviously going to have way better insulation value. So, I mean, just looking at the size of the walls.
Interestingly, as you say that, I'm about to post the part two with our buddy, the Hempcrete guy who
Okay,
worked
yeah,
with you, right?
yeah.
So the funny part is this is a small industry in hemp. We all know each other, we've worked together, and that's the whole reason that Eco Synergy exists right now. We have a Harmony House platform, which is a consultancy, if you will, where I bring together the information, the right people, the architects, the builders, the materials. So we are all in one big happy, hempy heart
Mhm.
family in a way. But we talk about that. We talk about that in the upcoming episode. So for those listening and watching, make sure you watch this whole series. Go check out what Cameron had to say in part one and part two. And we just had a beautiful interview with Andrew Bish, who does all kinds of manufacturing, temp feed. It's all related. It
Yeah.
is all
Oh yeah.
related. So you already knew about some of the eco products, some of the technologies, some of the way that they're being implemented in current builds, and you thought, cool, great. You are a little atypical from a traditional builder in that way, though. Would you say that that's a fair
Yeah.
assessment?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we're certainly willing to take on non-conventional builds. I mean, if I point to the last three that we did, the first one I did was like a Victorian style, sort of like a modern Victorian style. I think Matthew is building a geodesic dome house, and then I just after I finished the Victorian house, I came right over and started Paige's Hempcrete house. So we definitely get involved in just non-traditional builds and are willing to do that. There's not a lot of builders I don't think these days that are jumping for joy at the idea of probably some of the older builders don't want to change their ways, and get involved in like these new building methods. So it's kind of up to the younger generation and kind of the newer builders to get educated on what's coming.
Until they do, right?
Yeah,
That's the beautiful
yeah.
part about it's always been like this, and therefore that holds
Hmm.
until it no longer holds,
Well,
until
that's
someone
changed. Yeah.
is brave enough to say, you know
Hmm.
what, this just makes more sense.
Oh yeah.
And as a human being, as a person who cares about other people on this planet, which really is every single one of us, truly, we all actually care about the same things. And that's why I enjoy these conversations.
Yeah.
That's what Eco Synergy, for anyone who does want to find out more about this and to help me to connect you to people like Mike, all that, obviously, ecosynergy.solutions. Come find us. Now, as for Paige's house, here's a question. Of all the components, because you also tied in hemp wood, that was new for you.
Hmm.
I'm hoping to use your flooring guy on another project for a
Oh,
retrofit
good.
for commercial building. Yeah,
That's
like I
amazing.
once we're in the family, we're all in the family.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
When you think about that house now that it's done and she's about ready to move in, which is very exciting, what part of that project feels most alive to you? What really makes your heart go, oh, satisfaction?
Yeah, yeah, that's an easy one. It's the air quality for me. Let's go ahead and say water, for example. If you want to have clean water and if you want to have good water quality, it's kind of the sort of the jury's out on what does that, and it's going to be like a filtration system, a redundant filtration system. But for air quality, there wasn't really a good way to passively achieve that. That was just kind of like a widely known thing. So. I mean, you can introduce like air intakes and you can filter your air, but the air quality that you get from choosing natural building materials and in Paige's case, deciding to really scrutinize kind of every detail of everything that was chosen to make sure that it was going to be something that didn't off-gas harmful chemicals that she was sensitive to, or that would just be harmful to her. And so the air quality when I walk into that house as like I'm not even I mean, as of today, it's not even technically done. She's moving on the 28th, but the shock of walking into a not even done house that's mostly done and just not necessarily and just not smelling anything, any off gassing of any kind, you might as well be standing outside. And that's just a kind of something that, I do a lot of houses, and then we do a lot of building projects in general where we're using standardized materials here that are, in big box stores. And that's the thing that really catches me off guard every time I walk in that house is just how just neutral and clean and not hostile the air is. For a house that's not even done, it's kind of awe-inspiring. It really is.
I love that you just said that. I think that is, I said this in another interview. Once in a while, a guest says a line that makes such a great bumper sticker. And I have to figure out how to rephrase it, but you basically just said when you walk in that house, instead of all the construction smells that we would typically expect,
Yeah.
it was like standing outside and breathing fresh air.
Yeah, it
That
really
just does
was.
not exist anything else except for the fact that it's from the hempwood and the hempcrete and the way it works with air.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's a when you seek out natural components, you're going to have a natural finish. The only reason I kind of am attuned to that, I live in a log cabin house, and I kind of experienced the same thing, but I kind of didn't really realize that when I moved in 8 years ago, because I just think that a house that's broken into, or a house that's been broken in terms of people have lived in it for a while. The off-gassing subsides and it just kind of smells like a normal house. But um, now that I live here and I have been working at Paige's house, and I go to other houses too, it kind of helps me realize just sort of how impactful like choosing natural stuff is. And I mean, I'm using the blanket term natural stuff. I mean, like in
Right.
all components, wood trim, wood for the walls,
All
wood floors,
hempwood, by
hempwood
the
floors.
way, right? Let's be really clear. People think of and I'm about to interview, I'm really excited about the CEO of Hempwood, another one of our friends, but it's really important because people have these concepts. They sort of know a little bit and they have a picture in their mind of what that is. But the fact is, hempwood can be an accent wall. It can be used for lumber, plywood, blocks. It can be turned into the countertops, the tables, legs of chair, everything. Paneling, what we
There are
use for
applications I haven't
LVP.
even seen before. Yeah, I mean
Right.
it's expanding really really quickly.
Yeah, trim, staircase, all of those things, hempwood. You can
Hmm.
actually, it is an organic manufactured product. We'll talk about that in another episode. So, when you think about the relationship then between the materials, the land, and the person who's going to occupy that house, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What is the most significant approach?
So we always just let the customer sort of dictate initially sort of what they're looking for. I mean, you are right that the land, the customer, and the materials are all going to tie together. Obviously, the customer is going to be making a decision or coming to us with some land that they've chosen based on their desires of, how many acreage, topography, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Geographic location, and then they'll, of course, with their budget and design, dictate what the house is going to be as well in terms of the design and what they choose. So what we can do as builders is just sort of subtly, just sort of drop hints that you're asking for this, but have you considered this? I know that you're looking for wood floors. Have you considered hempwood floors for the added benefit of air quality,
Less
sustainability?
chemicals, all the glues, resins, all of that being because you're
Yeah,
meticulous about that. And I
yeah.
appreciate that it's not just when you're working with hempwood specifically, they send you all the right materials because they want to make sure that you're laying it in properly and everything around how those are manufactured and built with are actually equally eco-friendly, healthy, know that none of the toxins, none of the formaldehyde components that we see in
Yeah.
other materials. So,
I just
yes, you're
want to point out.
subtly mentioning it, but do you want to really walk in and go, okay, you need to know this. You don't know what you don't know. Let me share some information. Has that
So
met
yeah,
with resistance, or do you think that more and more people are looking for you to offer that information?
no, people are typically when you're consulting a builder, you're sort of looking for that builder's understanding and experience to sort of guide you. So obviously, we don't look at it as like a way to sort of upsell anything. It's a way to introduce like, hey, this may help you achieve what you're looking for, and this is sort of a thing that we're seeing now, and we've had experience with, and it's been working out. Um, yeah, people are rarely resistant to being given that information. Sometimes it'll come down to a preference in terms of just aesthetics. Sometimes, for example, one finish chosen may just come down to just how it looks. And for some people, that's sort of where the battle is saying, look, in choosing from this palette of what we have, obviously, like you're going to go with a certain look. However, certain people are going to value different things. For some people, it's only going to be aesthetics. For somebody like me and for someone like Paige and a few other people that we're working with this in our immediate sphere are certainly considering the sustainability, the regenerative benefits of using building materials like hemp wood. So yeah, no, it definitely hasn't been met with hostility. And one thing I wanted to add is because I think it was Greg from Hempwood is the CEO. Greg,
Yeah, great.
is it Greg? Yeah, so Greg. At least he's told me that the hemp wood that we use. What I love when they send everything is that, for example, if a customer wants to go with like a glue down flooring and they choose not to go with hemp wood, for example, there's something like soy glue that if they're going to be gluing this down can still incorporate regardless of aesthetics to offer just some sort of value. So it's kind of like wherever you can include it is definitely beneficial. And I think a lot of customers understand that and are very open to that.
I love that you said that because that was what I was referencing when I said everything around how the floors are not just made, but what's used, the resins, the glues, all of the binders, everything. And you can aesthetically design. I think that there's also a little bit of a misunderstanding that you and, Eco Synergy, we help to bridge the gap with that information because that's why I know that Greg and Hempwood, a lot of what he'll send, he prefers for it to be done on site because you can adjust the stain, you can adjust the aesthetic, you can
Oh
go
yeah,
with a lighter or darker, you can design the finish for the floor to match an LVP, a vinyl product or something you like the texture of a grain. He can work with that and
sure.
literally adjust the color and the palette and the texture, and it changes the whole timbre of the entire environment,
We
really.
did it at Paige's house. Yeah, she wanted a lightener. Paige wanted to lighten up her floors further from basically what she was looking at after we applied 2 coats of the Nordic sealer, which is a lightener. So we did just that. We just added another coat, and she was like, "It's perfect. That's what we'll do."
I love that.
Yeah, it's versatile and it's incredibly competitive with conventional products, both in price as well as finish and aesthetic. I mean, her floors look great. It's the first time I've used hempwood flooring from this manufacturer, and it just looks great. It was a great project. It's a great process, and then the support for it from Greg in the hempwood store was actually really great.
Yeah, that's the whole point is that once you become familiar and once you start to incorporate it. Now, you're lucky you had a client and a customer who was very specifically educated, but now you, as the builder, have all of this new information and access, and hopefully, we'll do many projects together.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll definitely I already am referring to you as part of our Eco Synergy family.
sure. Yeah,
So, in terms of your honest opinion, then, besides a customer coming to you and a one-off build,
yeah.
if you could create a driving mechanism to make an adjustment in your industry, where would you apply yourself? Is it the education? Is it the access? Is it establishing more fundamental change in building codes so that more builders can embrace this approach? Where would you like to see a change, and how would you like to help implement that change?
Yeah, so what I can do immediately is to tie in these materials where I'm able to in my own personal projects. Matthew and I are going to start doing spec houses. We just found recently a financial product that seems like it may be a possibility for custom builders to sort of just do one-off spec houses for sale. And so what we'll do is just kind of do the hard part for the customer, is just sort of preemptively make those decisions for them and just say, look, we're building a house. We care about this. We think that this is a way to market this, of course, is it's desirable to have good quality, good indoor air quality, good water quality, and then sustainable building materials used. That way, we're not competing with, I would say, kind of what's most not in our favor, which is people's kind of indecision about it. And I think that for a lot of people that maybe don't have sensitivities, it's a hard sell to say, look, you don't know this yet. Just because you don't have a sensitivity doesn't mean that these things that off gas from conventional building materials don't affect you. So we're going to basically display a house that says, hey, here are the benefits of this house. This is what was used, and then here's why that should appeal to you. So that's something that we can just do as the owner of preferred building in terms of the most direct way to just start putting this stuff into the world and increasing just sort of just general education, but then just off education in terms of like just kind of what's out there in the world. Just general education amongst the people is definitely important too, which is what I think you're kind of towing the line on. And so,
Yeah, these
you know,
interviews help with that. Actually, that's
definitely,
why
yeah, of
Eco Synergies
course.
here. The Harmony House platform is all designed to have these conversations, to share them. Just FYI, within 1 week, we had over 1,100 views
That's
on the
great.
Hempcrete video alone.
It's fantastic.
Unbelievable. I think
Yeah.
that speaks volumes as to what we can expect in the next 5 to 10 years, especially because you're right. Just because you don't walk around, well, you said, let me back up for one moment. You actually mentioned that the costs are very comparable. Right there, when you say, look, the costs are the same for premium hardwood floors as a hempwood product.
Mhm.
And here are additional benefits. And even if a house or the materials cost 15 to 30% more for certain aspects, which can be a range that can
Mhm.
exist depending on the thickness of, let's say, hempcrete,
Sure.
insulation, other work, whatever it is. If people understood that you actually upfront that cost, but over the lifetime of the building itself, the structure itself, You are less reliant on all the mechanical attributes. Your heating and cooling costs simply go way, way, way down, and
Yeah,
they stay down.
it's pretty
And the
insane.
durability of the materials is
Yeah.
so exponentially larger, and the health benefits.
Oh yeah.
I don't see how pointing all that out could be met with anything other than complete gratitude, acceptance, kind of a no-brainer. So,
Yeah.
how long do you think it's going to take for people to really catch on? And where do you see the industry in the next 5 to 10 years then?
Yeah, I definitely see steady growth in all alternative building material industries for sure. I don't think that's going to go away. I think that even if you try to kind of kill the development or the integration of these things into building code, it's kind of past critical mass in my opinion. Like it's growing, it's going to go somewhere.
I think building codes are going to be adjusted. First of all, they already are. The fact is, if you say
Yeah,
to your contractor, I want to use these materials, there is no no that you're going to be met with. There's a matter of, oh, really? Oh, okay. Because in most places, they're already approved and can easily be approved. It's just a matter of walking softly, carrying that big stick.
yeah. I think that what's comparable in cost, I was going to bring up the hempwood as compared to just sort of like traditional like hardwood. You get an equal cost comparison in terms of the installation, the finishing, and then the cost of material. Hempcrete and lime plaster as a wall finish and insulation, the benefits from that are exponential above fiberglass insulation. You are going to pay a good bit more for it. So I would say that although everybody is going to agree, like, yeah, these benefits are like hands down beneficial, I'd say some of them, like the challenges, I think are going to be in education, in really being able to show somebody the difference between a hempcrete house and a traditional fiberglass insulated house. It's quite stunning that you can basically walk around. I mean, in a new construction house, you can walk in every single corner of the room and feel the exact same humidity and temperature. It's kind of unreal. During this last freeze that came down,
Right.
I think
That's
it was,
actually really, really significant because
yeah,
anyone who's ever walked in those environments, say that again. You literally have the same humidity and temperature.
in every
It's
corner of every room. It's
amazing.
insane. I mean, just the fact that I mean, it's such a mass. It's such an insulating mass that is also air sealed to a very high degree. I would say like micropores, if anything, if you just go with the natural lime finish. But that's what basically balances the humidity in the air is the lime plaster and the hempcrete basically kind of are almost like one of those humidification packets that come in all those things that you buy that have them in that,
Oh, the
they just keep
desiccant,
the
the
little
little,
silica, whatever it is. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It just basically balances the
yeah.
humidity, and the hempcrete essentially does that. So exponential benefit of doing this, greater cost as well. So in that regard, with these alternate building materials, I think that people's indifference to say, let's just go with the cheaper one. I think it's going to be education that's going to say, well, actually, maybe consider this as like an investment in your future. Like, let's take your heating and cooling costs and like let's say those were halved. In 5 years, you've just paid back the cost to do this lime plaster.
Less than 5 years. For
Or
most houses, given at least 1,100 square foot or whatever, unless you're in a tiny home. But even then, there is no price. There really is no comparative model to understanding the difference it will have on a health impact for you and your family.
yeah,
And that is so important.
yeah,
Number one, is that really where you would lead then in terms of saying, look, it's not just the heating and cooling costs, the durability, most floors, if you put down a vinyl and as good as we like to think they are, oh, they're moisture resistant, all that. Well, until they start peeling up in how many years? 5, 10 years, you need to
sure,
start looking to replace them. In
yeah,
a hempwood floor, you don't. It's 75 to 100 years. You can sand them 3 times. I mean, come on. If
yeah,
you know the fundamentals, and by the way, on our website, we have downloadable PDFs that have a lot of the basic information we're talking about. So if you don't remember all of the things in this conversation, again, go to the website. Everything's in the description below. You can reach out to me. I'll help get you in touch with Mike if you're in the Chapel Hill area. But that's what we're here for. You don't know what you don't know. But once
yep,
you do know, and once you understand long term, it's actually much less expensive to make the decisions now and do it up front and never have to worry about replacing the materials, much less the impact on your family's health.
yeah. It's similar to like an EV. If you kind of think of just the insulation, hempcrete, and then also wall cladding portion of this, it's similar to like an electric vehicle. I mean, you're gonna make a more upfront investment. However, you're not going to have to go to a gas station. You're not going to have to stop and fuel up unless you're on like a long road trip, and then you get you look at the value that you save in the future for maintenance and fuel costs. And so that's how it's a similar approach. You'd probably think about it similarly that way for what you get for the insulation.
And for commercial builds as well, for schools, for institutions, there are some cognitive studies that are linked to the improvement about not breathing in pieces of everything that went into those building materials.
Yeah,
Traditional building materials are made in unhealthy ways, period. End of discussion on that. We cannot avoid that.
sure.
But we are avoiding it now because that's why we're having these conversations. So if you really looked then at what needs to happen, it's also about bringing in architects, builders, I like to call it. And actually, it is the title of my second book in the ABCs trilogy. It's the ABCs for ABCs and Ds, architects, builders, contractors, and designers. So we need to start to create a way to collaborate more gently, to support each other. What would that ecosystem look like to you, and how do you want to be a part of creating it?
Yeah, I think just people networking with one another and just sort of kind of coagulating this understanding that we're all trying to encourage everybody to build as regeneratively, as sustainably, and as healthily as possible. And so I think just staying connected with one another at this point until some sort of a platform is maybe introduced that it sounds like you're basically
Like ours.
already. Yeah, I mean
That's what we're doing here. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
of course, yeah. So something like that is definitely a great way to kind of pull people together, and I think just really builders getting educated, and maybe code enforcement board or like the licensing board, since we have to do continuing education, it's required for our licenses yearly. Possibly introducing like a continuing ed course that's optional as like a sustainable building course. We have to do basically like I think an 8 hour course of mandatory, which is just kind of redundant stuff each year. And then we have to choose like alternative topics to just sort of further educate ourselves. So I think that if the licensing board introduced that, that would be like a great way to just sort of gently get people kind of going in the way, or rather going away from just sort of the standard stuff and considering the what's now alternative, but will hopefully become standard in the future, just building materials like that. Yeah.
I love that word alternative. I remember many, many, many years ago, I won't say how many, when I started in wellness, it was really for alternative medicine was the way it was described.
Hmm.
But one of our concepts is called medicine, but it's METASYN as in metasynergy.
Yeah.
So, right, that's my whole
Yeah.
thing. So the funny part is I don't really think these are alternative anymore. They're just being brought into the conversation more. I mean, the fact that I'm sitting here having this chat with you,
Yep.
you've known about this for a little while. Building has been around since the beginning of time, but hemp has been around and useful since the beginning of time. The funny
Oh yeah.
part is, while people think this is alternative, this is actually going back to grassroots. This is where we started. I did write the book, The ABCs of CBD. I told you about
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But the whole second chapter is the world history of cannabis and hemp. We, as the human species, have been reliant and in a synergistic relationship with this plant species since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
This country was founded on it,
Yeah.
literally founded on it. Farmers were encouraged, if not ordered, say, grow hemp, grow hemp. Everybody, I don't want to say this jokingly, but it's kind of true. They smoked hemp, they grew hemp, they built with hemp, they ate from hemp. It's
Yeah.
the most versatile cultivar in the planet, truly, that has more applications feeding off into huge, huge business sectors. But literally, if you want to heal the topsoil, if you want to heal your home, use hemp. It's just the foundation of it. It really is.
Yeah, it's really growing a lot, and I'm happy to see that. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into the kind of the forces that be that may have kind of suppressed the development, the build out of that industry,
Sure.
but it's the money money wins and money talks, and that's kind of the root of power for some industries, and so it's good that this is becoming a grassroots thing. It's a grassroots building product, and it's good that it's getting grassroots support because the big industries are only going to involve themselves if they can monetize heavily on it and disregard, like I think what you're trying to do, which is really just point out the values and the benefits to the people that subscribe and support your causes. And so I think that we're doing all that we can do right now, and it's going to be up to other builders to just kind of pick this up on their own and really push it. And then the licensing board can definitely probably help a little bit with that. But you're doing a great job, and this is I think what people have needed for a long time.
Well, I'm honored and excited. This is
Yeah,
definitely part of my passion, and it's been my work for many, many years. Although people say, wait, you were in wellness and now you're doing building. I said, no, it's still wellness.
it's the same
Again,
thing. Yeah.
inside and on the body and into expanding into our built environments. You can't do one without the other, truthfully. It's how we got ourselves here in the first place in a lot of ways. It's now time to take a little accountability and take a step back and say, this is simpler than we've made it because these materials are available. The
Hmm.
people to apply them, the people who are learning about them, the customers who want them. All you have to do is say, I want that. And someone will say, okay, I will provide it.
Yep.
I mean, in the simplest, most fundamental way, that's what we're talking about. So if you were to meet a family tomorrow and they said, okay, we want to build a more sustainable home, and you're like, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you wish they would understand from the very beginning of that conversation? Where would you
Yeah,
start?
yeah. It's just sort of frame their understanding with what the building process is like, because there's certain lead times and there's certain subtleties, and I'll just quickly go into one. The lime plaster coating on hempcrete walls. There's a very, very particular curing process so that that doesn't crack preemptively. And so there's basically a 2 week lead time until that dries and cures. And so certain things just need to be a little bit more delicate with. But the time investment and the effort investment is very, very, very worth it in the end when you walk into the finished house and you can actually see all the benefits for what you had to do. So there's um there's a little bit of an alternate considerations as opposed to like just traditional modern building these days. But yeah, it's very non-threatening path to stare down and say, okay, well, it's going to take a little bit longer, and we're going to spend a little bit extra money in these areas because we care about these things. But at the end of the day, you're walking into the house that you're intending to build. Yeah, just a little more of a lead time, maybe a little bit more cost in certain areas for exponential benefits. But it's a
Upfront, but not
yeah,
necessarily over the lifetime. So again, I really
up
want
front,
people to
absolutely.
understand
Yeah,
that.
thank
Yeah.
you for clarifying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're paying something a little more upfront for certain materials, but not all of them, because again, the hempwood is comparable to premium hardwoods. Right?
exactly. Yeah, great clarification there. Thank you. Yeah. I'm specifically with insulation, and it's a
What
great
about,
process. I would do it
and
again, definitely.
you would do it again? No
Of course.
question.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good to know because I plan on referencing you a lot
Okay.
for a
Yeah.
lot
No,
of
we're
this
happy to do
work.
it. We know how to do it now, so we're good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're our go-to experts for anywhere in that region in North Carolina. But also, I appreciate something else you said. It is about talking to and making sure the building codes are all updated and the continuing education process that you have to be involved with as a builder, as a professional. That's a great opportunity. I would love to have your help. So I'm putting you on the spot right now to put
Yeah.
together the right curriculum for that and offer it. Really offer it. Because if we create the solution ahead of or recognizing where the holes are in the industry, that's always been my thing. You
Mhm.
look around, you assess the situation, not to focus on the deficiencies or what's lacking or and all of that and how we got here and being mad at somebody that we did get
Sure.
here. It's more about, observing lightly, you see a niche, you see a need state, and say, I want to be a part of creating the solution. I already am the solution. The solution already exists. How can I expand that solution? How
Yeah.
can I participate in expanding the solution? So you just gave me a great idea. Let's create that curriculum for the continuing ed for all of the builders and contractors.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just ideas like that that are just going to continue to lead the charge. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'm so
Absolutely.
glad you thought of it. I'm so glad I'm voicing it because now we can actually get to work on that. It just, again, puts you from being a pioneer and someone who said, I'm showing up. I understand the benefits of this. I want to be a part of the solution. I want to be a part of expanding the solution. And that's not about even focusing on the problem anymore. It's just about offering something beautiful, significant, important, essential, beneficial for all humans and this planet.
And that's why we're glad we met you.
Yeah, I'm glad I met you too. More soon. Actually, Paige's sister, Blair, new fabulous sister goddess, friend of mine.
Oh,
We
yeah.
are hoping to do some more media work. We're going to come down when Paige's house is finished. It
Cool.
is basically finished. We want to talk more with the architects who are involved in this movement. And there are so many more people who want to join this conversation. So I'll be coming back to you in the near future. Again, if anyone wants to find this wonderful gentleman and wants to learn more, get involved. Check out the description box below, of course, like, follow, and share this channel, this content. It helps us spread this beautiful message all about regenerative material sustainability, benefiting mankind and this planet. And thank you so much, Mike, for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Shira. I appreciate it.